I'm very interested in the subject of extensive reading for learners of foreign languages. Could you ask me a few questions about it?
That's a fascinating topic. I'd love to hear more about your interest in extensive reading. Here are a few questions to get us started. What languages are you currently learning or interested in learning through extensive reading? Have you tried extensive reading before? If so, what kind of materials did you use, example, books, articles, comics? What do you find most challenging about incorporating extensive reading into your language learning routine? Are there any specific genres or topics you prefer to read about in your target language? How do you measure your progress or success when using extensive reading as a learning method? Feel free to answer any or all of these questions, or share any other thoughts you have on the subject.
Let's take the last question. This is something that came up in a recent discussion about extensive reading with some teachers from Japan. I was arguing that maybe it wasn't as important to measure the amount of extensive reading that students had done as to measure the effects on their general ability in English or their specific increase in ability in reading. Let's look at the last question there. This is something that came up when I was talking to some people interested in extensive reading in Japan, and I was arguing that maybe it wasn't so important to measure how much extensive reading students had done as to measure how much this reading had helped their reading ability or their general ability in the language.
That's an interesting perspective. It sounds like you're suggesting that the quality and impact of the reading might be more important than the quantity. Here are a few follow-up questions to explore this idea further. Impact measurement. How do you think we could effectively measure the impact of extensive reading on a student's reading ability or overall language proficiency? Qualitative vs. Quantitative. What are some qualitative indicators that might show improvement in reading ability or language skills, as opposed to just counting the number of pages or books read? Feedback and reflection. Do you think incorporating regular feedback or self-reflection could help students and educators better understand the benefits of extensive reading? Personal experience. Have you noticed any specific improvements in your own language skills through extensive reading that might not be captured by traditional metrics? Your insights could be really valuable for others interested in extensive reading.
Well, let's look at the first question of how do you measure the impact of extensive reading. I don't know much about it, but I wonder whether some of these low-stake evaluation systems, I believe the British Council has got one, I think some of the publishers have got them. So there are ways of evaluating your language ability, but without you having to pay any money and without it being something that will unlock doors to something. But I hope it would be able to, you'd be able to share that impact with your teacher.
You're right, there are indeed low-stakes evaluation systems that can help measure the impact of extensive reading on language ability. These assessments are designed to provide feedback without the pressure of high-stakes exams. Here are a few points to consider. British Council's low-stakes tests. The British Council offers various low-stakes tests that help students and teachers understand strengths and weaknesses in language skills. These tests are not certificated. They can be a great way to gauge the impact of extensive reading on language proficiency. Self-assessment grids. The British Council also provides self-assessment grids that allow learners to evaluate their language skills based on the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, CEFR, levels, A1-C2. This can help students reflect on their progress and identify areas for improvement. Publisher resources. Many language learning publishers offer their own evaluation tools. These might include quizzes, reading comprehension tests, and other interactive activities that can help measure the impact of extensive reading. Feedback and reflection. Regular feedback from teachers and self-reflection can also play a crucial role. Keeping a reading journal, discussing books with peers or teachers, and setting personal goals can help students see the qualitative improvements in their language skills. Using these tools, you can share your progress with your teacher and get a better understanding of how extensive reading is benefiting your language learning journey. Do you think these methods might be helpful for you or the people you were discussing this with in Japan? British Council Self-Assessment Grid. British Council Low-Stakes Tests.
Okay, I think we'll stop there. This was quite a long example of a conversation with Copilot. I felt that with ChatGPT it was faster, as I didn't have to remember to press the microphone button every time I spoke.